Welcome along to the Aspiring Psychologist podcast. I am Dr. Marianne Trent and I am a qualified clinical psychologist. We can be pretty good in the mental health industry at trying to polish up the dull side of a penny and finding advantages. And certainly one of the advantages I found about the lockdowns was how much more immersed in nature I was able to be. So it gave me time to slow everything down, and I was going out for more walks, and I even started running. So being able to see, spring emerging and, making way for summer, making way for autumn, and then winter as well, and seeing the change in the seasons, for me, felt like a really nice opportunity. And people during lockdown found new ways to welcome kind of nature and wildlife into their daily lives and into their well-being too, and into their schedules too. I made contact with somebody who is a nature wildlife specialist, because I thought it'd be really nice for us to learn a bit about the benefits of being out and about in the outdoors, but also thinking about the benefits we can highlight to our clients through something called green prescribing. We are all human, and my guest contacted me after we'd recorded this to say that he had accidentally got Spring Watch and Autumn Watch muddled up. So it isn't Spring Watch that's going to be potentially discontinued, it's Autumn Watch. So when you get to that bit, if you're watching on YouTube, it will pop up on the screen to explain the mix-up. But if you get to that bit and you're listening on the podcast, then yeah, we mean the other way around. So it's not Spring Watch that's potentially stopping, it is Autumn Watch. So I hope that clears up any confusion. I have also been notified that you can actually do reviews and ratings on Spotify. So I know most of you do listen on Spotify. That is our most popular streaming platform. So if you indeed are listening on Spotify, please do take a moment to rate and review the show. I don't use Spotify. I haven't got Spotify, so I don't know how to talk you through that process. But if you do use Spotify, do have a little look and let me know. Maybe send me some screenshots of how you do it so I can explain it to other people. That would be so wonderful. So I hope you find today's episode really useful. It's a little bit different today, but I think it's really useful to give you a breadth of things that are useful to you as an aspiring psychologist and a mental health professional. So if you find it useful, I'll catch up with you on the other side. So welcome to my guest today, Dan Loveard. Hi.
Hi, Marion. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Yes, I'm good, thank you.
So I'm on your mailing list for where you work, which is how I heard about you and your work. And I was intrigued to learn a little bit more and to help our audience learn a little bit more about wildlife and being out in nature and how that can be really beneficial for our mental health if we are working in mental health, and also for our clients that we work with as well.
Yeah, so I'm happy to talk more about what we offer at Warwickshire Wildlife Trust. So we have a health and wellbeing team, and they deliver a variety of different opportunities for people to be inspired and engage in nature activities. So we run wellbeing courses, which are in line with the 5 Ways to Wellbeing, which you might be aware of. They're the nationally recognised approaches, if you like, that the NHS came up with. And we've put that in a nature context, which has worked really well. And we've received so much positive feedback and stories from them being a part of those courses. So yeah, I can delve into a little bit more about those courses. So like I said, they're in line with the 5 Ways, and those 5 ways are connect, take notice, give back, get active, and learn something new. So putting that into a nature context, there's activities that we can run in line with those approaches. So macro photography, volunteering, so things like tree planting, for example, going for a long walk, and running some mindfulness activities, which have all been really impactful ways for people to connect with nature and with the people around them as well. And then other things that we run within the health and wellbeing team are bushcraft activities, so a bit more hands-on, practical fire lighting activities. So sort of bring out sort of like you're in a kid in a way, when you might go into the woods and do a variety of different things. And then also we run volunteering activities, which we do as an we offer those across the board actually in our organisation. So we have 65 nature reserves, and within those, the volunteers that we have, about 700, they're the lifeblood of our organisation, for us to be managing those sites to support wildlife. So we run volunteering activities for people that experience poor ill health, that may have been signposted by their GPs, along with other social prescribers as well. And then they can get out onto our nature reserves with one of our project officers and get stuck in and use nature in a sort of green prescribing way, if you like.
Brilliant. And that's really powerful. And I think it's like you said, it's the mindfulness aspect of it. But also it's something people can feel a bit apprehensive about doing things that are new, but it sounds like that doesn't need to be the case when you're going to these wildlife centres, because there will be people who are really thrilled to talk to you and guide you through what you might be looking at or what you might like to look for.
Yes, definitely. So we do completely recognise that there are some barriers with people accessing nature, whether that be a fear of safety, and being out on their own in a woodland, for example, can be daunting for some people, and maybe they don't feel that nature's for them, and it's not relevant to their lives. But as an organisation, we're really keen to instill a level of nature into people's lives, because we know how important and powerful it is to nurture people's mental health. So yeah, we are as welcoming as we can be, and we do go out into the community quite a lot through our outreach work to inspire and connect the more disengaged audiences in society within Warwickshire, Coventry and Solihull.
Yeah, and I've been to your centre specifically with my young children when they're a little bit younger. And what I really like is you've got a cafe there as well. And there's a TV where at the time you could see, like, I think it was kestrels on the roof of a local building with their little chicks. Was it kestrels? I'm not sure.
So they're peregrines. So
Peregrine falcons.
they're in the same family of birds of prey. But yeah, we have a webcam, which is it's a partnership project with Warwick District Council, and we have a successful pair of nesting peregrines in the town hall in Leamington. So we also have access to the webcam feed, and yes, we play that along with some of the smaller bird box birds like blue tits and great tits and things that we have on our reserves. And that's such an intimate way to connect with nature, isn't it? Seeing the whole breeding cycle of them raising their chicks to them fledging. It's really fantastic, isn't it?
It really was, and it was fascinating stuff. And to sit there with my little boy and have our lunch and watch these baby chicks eating their lunch, like, it was really, really nice. So that, and I guess and I think you also had bird tables set up outside the windows to the cafe as well. So even if you're not feeling like confident, or if you're not that good kind of mobility wise about getting out and about, there's ways for you to engage with nature and see stuff that you might not see in your own house or from your own balcony, by going to these centres that might just really kind of lift your soul. So I really liked that about the centre, actually.
Yeah, it's a very inviting space, and we're trying to make it as inclusive as possible within our means. Like you said, the cafe is a great space for people that may not be as mobile, but we do have some mobility scooters, but not loads. So, some people will have to sometimes wait so that they can get that level of access onto the nature reserve at Brandon Marsh, which is our headquarters. But yes, if they just want a cup of tea and to look out of the window, we always have the bird feeders full, and yeah, it attracts so much wildlife. Not just the birds, actually. We've had muntjac deer, foxes, yeah, a real mix of wildlife.
I love that. My little boy told me that I had to ask you, he's 6.5, I had to ask you about certain wildlife, whether you have it or you don't have it. And I was like, I think some of these he definitely won't have. A flamingo.
Okay, so that's a definite no, but it would be great,
Okay.
but it's a no.
Yeah. He asked about foxes, and you've said yes to foxes.
Yeah, we do.
Badgers. Badgers?
Yes, most likely we do. I'm not aware of any badger sets, so that's the network of underground tunnels where they live. I'm not aware of any that are active, but I wouldn't be surprised if badgers use our nature reserve, even if they don't live there, if that makes sense.
Okay. And I know moles are not always people's friends, especially like farmers. Do you have moles, and do you like them if you do?
Well, I love all wildlife, and I know
Okay.
that's a biased thing to say. I know people aren't like a fan of certain things because, creepy crawlies and all of that, but I like to try and break that stigma because if you know if we can change, I suppose, the narrative on certain wildlife being scary or maybe a bit gross, I think that can, especially with the younger generation, um, I think that will be a good way to, I suppose, break down that barrier of nature not always being for me, I suppose, as well. But in answer to your question about the moles, I like moles. They have a part of what I mean is that they're a part of our ecosystem. They have their place. Um, in terms of them being on a nature reserve, I think they would be, but I don't see any molehills on our reserves that often. So again, I don't know if they use it that much, but I mean, they use them in my garden a lot because there's loads of molehills.
Thank you. Thank you for entertaining my 6.5-year-old. He'll be delighted to know those answers.
You're
And
welcome.
yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking, well, when I grew up, I was outside so much. I constantly had my hands in the dirt or was playing with insects. I don't know if you're supposed to play with them. Putting them in jars and having a look at them and then putting them back, of course. And slugs. I still don't like slugs very much. They are quite ugly creatures. But moving snails and looking at caterpillars and butterflies, and I don't think our young people are getting out as often as that, and certainly not getting their hands muddy. They're more disgusted by that, I think, in my experience, certainly of parenting. How's that playing out for you as you try and educate young people about the benefits of being outside?
Well, particularly with the younger generation, like you were saying, I think I can definitely see, and at the trust, we can see that there is this, I suppose, culture, if you like, and mindset about um, being outdoors in the mud is like a bad thing. And our education team are fantastic at, I suppose, breaking that stigma a little bit and that mindset by working with schools and families to really get stuck in. Like we have a mud kitchen at Brandon Marsh, like a little education area, and also we have a den building woods, which is a great way for the younger generation in particular. But I'm very happy to do it myself. Is things like den building. So that's a great way of nature play, isn't it? Just going outdoors and being creative out in nature, which I think is a really important thing.
Sounds like you've got an absolutely great job, Dan. I'm just
I was just saying that I do love my job. Yes, I've done elements of all of the things that I've mentioned to you. I have done some work with families before. I've delivered some of the wellbeing projects as well, and doing the courses and the volunteering. Um, yeah, so my role and my conservation career so far has been very diverse, which I really love.
Brilliant. It shines out of you. It's lovely to see. And I know before you were an Action for Nature officer, you were doing the kind of health and wellbeing role. So there might potentially be scope for people that are interested in nature to still do things that is, kind of clinically relevant as well, potentially. You're still using outcome measures for some of your interventions. You're kind of rubbing up alongside people who are doing, perhaps PhDs or research. And it's a good chance to work with, a wide variety of people.
Yeah, definitely. So we welcome people that are in research posts to approach us with their project idea for gaining their research, and also to shadow us as well, to get a greater perspective of what we do as an organisation. We've worked with a variety of different PhD students in the past, so we do welcome that interest, and we might not be always able to facilitate and support them, but it's worth reaching out just in case. So in terms of the current work that we're offering in the health and wellbeing team, so we're still running those 5 ways to wellbeing courses at different areas in the county, and we are running volunteering opportunities and wellbeing walks as well through our project called The Environment and Me, which is shortened to TEAM, which I think is really nice. Really sort of yes, it's a great project that's started in Coventry, and now they've expanded across Warwickshire as well, where they're delivering a variety of different opportunities in different areas for people that are experiencing mental ill health. But you don't have to be diagnosed with depression or anxiety, for example, to access those opportunities. Some people do feel like, they need to have that label, if you like, or diagnosis, when that isn't the case. We welcome and are open to a variety of different people from all sorts of backgrounds coming to those opportunities, where some opportunities may be more suitable than others. And if you just typed in on Google Warwickshire Wildlife Trust health and wellbeing, there will be the current opportunities that we have that may be relevant and that you can come to.
Brilliant. So would volunteering roles be up there as well, or is that a case of contacting your local wildlife trust to explore what might be an option?
So with the volunteering at Warwickshire Wildlife Trust, again, you can easily find that on our website. So if you just type in Warwickshire Wildlife Trust volunteering onto Google, there'll be a page which outlines the process you need to go through to be enrolled as a volunteer, and then maybe have a taster session with the relevant reserves officer that is covering that area. So we have a north, south, east and west reserves officer. So it just depends on maybe the geography of where that person is. So if they're Leamington based and they want to really be around that area, then our volunteer coordinator, Wendy, can align your interests and availability with the right opportunities, basically. So it just makes it an easy process.
Brilliant.
And one thing I wanted to touch on, because I know you did mention it before, but I haven't mentioned it yet, is the sort of interventions and the measuring of the work that we do. So with some of our projects within the health and wellbeing team in particular, we do track people's state of wellbeing and mood through the Warwick Edinburgh mental wellbeing scale. So that's a great way to measure the impact that our opportunities have on people's lives. So I think a really important aspect is the anecdotal evidence. So the stories that you capture just out on the reserve when you're walking with that person, just saying how this has been a lifeline for them. Because I was running those opportunities that I referenced before in COVID. So it was a tricky time for people. with social isolation and loneliness, and those opportunities were a great gateway for them to access nature and support their mental health and meet new people as well. And I know some people that have actually started leading walks with the people that were on the same course on the same nature reserve that I was running those sessions. So I think that's just such a positive outcome to our offer. But yes, alongside that, I was tracking people's state of well-being from the start, and then there was a midpoint questionnaire that we put in, and it gave to the people, and then there was an end one, so we would be able to track things like their mood and general sort of thoughts and feelings as well.
That's great. It's always good to be able to evidence that what you do works, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a great way to highlight the importance to organisations and government bodies like the NHS, for example, where we're trying, and we are working with them on a local level to create this green prescribing approach. There is a big thing around social prescribing, which really does have its place, and it's so important. And we are integrated within that system, where we've built up contacts with certain social prescribers that are attached to GPs. So they will refer some of their clients where appropriate to our services. But also, we do feel like there's a need to actually have a green prescribing approach, because we just know how so important the being outdoors in nature is like is for people's mental health. So that's a slow process, but we're really keen on it being something that's integrated within the health system.
Yeah, brilliant. And you touched on lockdowns there, and I know for some people that's a time where they really started to get more into their gardening, or observing what was going outside the window. Have you seen many more of an uptake since lockdown, or people being more interested in the outside world?
Yeah, definitely. So I think particularly when I was running the wellbeing courses and the volunteering, there was a lot of interest, because I think COVID allowed people, for a variety of reasons, to slow down and maybe reassess their lifestyle and how they led their lives. So I think a lot of people have engaged with nature more positively and have maintained that as well. Whereas I know some people probably wouldn't have done. So it was maybe they'll put in that situation of, well, you can't do anything else apart from go for a walk for an hour outside your house, which I still think was obviously really important for them at the time. But life takes over, and maybe they weren't able to maintain that once things relaxed a little bit more. But I do know a lot of people, and also like sort of through my work, where I've been able to have these discussions where they've spoken about how it's just changed their lives, and for the foreseeable and for the better.
Yeah, and do you think the Spring Watch and Autumn Watch shows with Chris Packham and Michaela Strachan, does that help people understand more? And are you getting people coming in saying, "Oh, I saw this on there. I really wanted to see it up close or close to me"?
Yeah, definitely. I think those documentaries and those shows, they have a real place on mainstream TV, and I really hope they don't go, because I heard recently about Springwatch being taken down, which is really upsetting. We've got one more Springwatch, and then they may not bring it back, which was a real shame, because those sort of
that
shows
is a shame. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I think it is set. I think it was mainly a budget decision from the BBC, but I don't know the whole ins and outs. I don't want to be controversial on here, but essentially, those shows they provide so much inspiration for people, and I think with Spring Watch, Autumn Watch, and Winter Watch, they're really good at changing that narrative, particularly at the end, for people to take action as well for nature, because I'm sure a lot of us know that there is an environmental crisis and an ecological crisis. And what we want to do with how we work with communities as an organisation is encouraging people to take action for wildlife on a local level. So whether that be doing some more wildlife-friendly gardening, or changing the way you commute to work, or a variety of different things that are fitting and tailored to their lives and suitable for them. So yeah, those shows are a great way and align with the sort of how we want to engage with communities, which is taking action as well. So it's providing that inspiration, but then also leading to a call to action as well.
It's also really useful to think about how the message about what you do and what populates out to wider organisations as well. So I know especially in Coventry, which is where I'm from, some of the roundabouts in Coventry have been put down to wildflower planting rather than constantly mowing them. It probably saves them money. That's probably what their main goal is. But it's so lovely to see, and it must be better for the wildlife, surely.
Oh, it is, yeah. So I think they started doing that when the City of Culture came to Coventry. So the council may have had some funding to start that process, but I think it's something that should be changed or should be integrated into their management for the long term, because it's so inviting to have that burst of colour when you arrive into Coventry. It's great for pollinators, and like you said, on a financial perspective, they don't have to mow it as much. So I think it's a win-win situation, really.
Absolutely. And how are the bees? Have you got bees on Brandon?
Yeah, so we have a lot of wildflowers on our nature reserve, or nature reserves. Like all of our reserves do have a variety of different wildflowers which support pollinators, not just bees, moths, butterflies, wasps, amongst others. So yeah, we definitely try to manage our reserves to be as sympathetic as possible to a diversity of wildlife, not just for a specific species. We feel on the whole, because there is such a nature decline on across the board, really, that our approach should be to then manage our reserves in a way which is best for as much wildlife as possible.
Yeah, thank you. I absolutely agree. How did you get into wildlife and start to think about making it your career, Dan?
So it sounds a bit cliche, but I from a young age, I've always loved nature and being outdoors. And my dad bought my first pair of binoculars because I'm really into bird watching. And I remember going out to a country park and making bird boxes and bat boxes and taking them back home. I think that just sort of sparked an interest from a very young age throughout my life until where I am now. Whereas sometimes there's always a bit of a gap, and it sort of falls, once you're in your teens, and then you may get it back. But for me, I've always sort of been interested in nature and the outdoors. So I studied a conservation degree at Bangor University, and loved it there. I don't know if you've been to that area of North Wales, but it's just the perfect spot for doing a conservation degree. And then, from that point, I did some sort of short-term seasonal contracts as like a graduate level in a very unusual role. So I was actually protecting rare seabirds on beaches in North Wales, Suffolk and Norfolk. Random, but a really important job. because they were threatened for a variety of different reasons. And then I broadened out my sort of way of working in the conservation sector. So one part of the role that I really enjoyed when I was doing the seabird stuff was engaging with the public. So I thought community engagement role would be really fitting for me. So then I went to Warwickshire Wildlife Trust and got a maternity cover, and they haven't been able to get rid of me since. So
You're not going anywhere. I love that.
No.
If you could offer our listeners kind of 3 top tips, either for themselves or for the clients they're supporting, about ways to include wildlife more in their day-to-day lives, what might they be?
Oh, good question.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, you have, but I'll try my best to answer. So I think one thing would be to go for a walk somewhere and consciously make an effort to appreciate your surroundings. So have like a mindful walk. I think a lot of us just go from A to B, and with our busy lives, and we're all thinking, I need to put this on my shopping list, so I need to do this later. When actually, if we slow down and just connect with nature on a deeper level, I think that would be a really good way. With practice, it's not just something you can do at a click of a finger, because I think we do have busy minds, and it's not an easy process sometimes for people. But with practice, I think you can do a mindful walk and it be a part of your daily life, and it doesn't have to be a long one. So I would say that as my first one. Another one would be to learn something new about wildlife that you're maybe particularly keen about, and finding out more about. So if it was birds, for example, maybe downloading an app on your phone to find out more about the bird song that you're listening to and you don't know what it is. So discovering a little bit more about what's around you as well. And then you can share that with a family member or a friend, and you're passing on that knowledge, which I think is a really positive thing as well, and can lift people's mood. And then another one, I think, would be to maybe go onto our website at Warwickshire Wildlife Trust. I'm not going to try and plug too much, but we have a new way of working with communities, like I sort of mentioned earlier, which is Team Wilder, and we're wanting more people to take action for wildlife, like I was mentioning. So if you go onto that part of our website, so Team Wilder, Warwickshire Wildlife Trust, just type that into Google, and you'll find out more about what we're doing as an organisation. And we have a map which people have been from the public have been plotting their actions for wildlife, so you can maybe get some inspiration about what people are doing, and maybe nearby where you live. So it'd be interesting to see if you live in Coventry, for example. There may be some people that have plotted something in from what they've done in their gardens. So some positive actions that may inspire you to also do the same. Or if you're already doing something, it'd be fantastic to hear from you about what you're doing, and then you can contribute, and then we can capture that and those actions and those stories, which is a great way for us to know what people are doing for nature.
It really is. Thank you for your tips. I know I put you on the spot there, but you did very well. People are listening probably nationally and sometimes even internationally. We've so far, I realised yesterday, covered something like 38% of the world have listened to an episode of the podcast, which is pretty incredible.
Wow,
is Team Wilder? Yeah, it's all right, isn't it? Team Wilder just a localised approach, or does it go more broadly outside in the UK? Do you know?
So it goes across the UK actually. So I don't know if the listeners are aware of the wildlife trusts in how they work, but it's actually a network of individual wildlife trusts. So there's a Warwickshire Wildlife Trust, there's an Essex Wildlife Trust, Norfolk Wildlife Trust, etc., etc. So primarily county based, and we work together as a movement as well. So we are separate entities and we do have our own aims and aspirations, but they are very similar to other wildlife trusts. But we, as a collective, we have a lot more power to create the changes that we want to for nature and people. So the Team Wilder approach is a part of that collective. So if there was someone that was listening in Essex, for example, there are teams in that organisation that are at the moment, taking this approach to Team Wilder and having more people take action for wildlife. So in answer to your question, yes. So people can find out more in their local area as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much for your passion for wildlife and helping us learn a bit more about why it's useful and how it can be really part of somebody's day-to-day life, which might well impact on their well-being in a really positive way.
No, you're welcome. Yeah, I'm really glad you did reach out to us because we're really wanting more people to be inspired and connect to nature, and as I keep saying this, take action. But I think it's just so important that we're doing our own bit for the environment, because those small actions can amount to a large and positive and significant impact.
Great. I will obviously make sure I put all of your Wildlife Trust website address details in the show notes so people can absolutely access that speedily if they want to. But thank you so much for your time today, Dan.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to our guest, Dan Loveard. Really lovely speaking with him, and really thoughtful guy that's got, really nice outlook on the world. So I hope you found that really useful and that you will find it useful for thinking about how you can interact with nature and wildlife, and how you can also help showcase and highlight the benefits of that to your clients too. I'd love any feedback you might have on this episode or any others. Do come and join us in the Aspiring Psychologist Community free Facebook group. If I don't see you there, I will be along in your ears from 6 a.m. on Monday for our next podcast episode. Thank you so much. Take care, and thank you for being part of my world.
Reflective accounts of mental health professionals on the way to getting qualified. So many tips and lessons to learn from. So many things that you can try. The